Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover.
Minus X minus 10.
The relentless sweep of communism has radically changed the map of Europe.
9.
If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it.
8.
When the Soviet Union joined the Nazi attack and then entered into a cynical collaboration to partition Poland, the fate of this part of the world was sealed.
7.
The chance of your being hurt by an atomic bomb is slight. But since there is a chance, you must know how to protect yourself.
6.
One of the greatest peacetime spy dramas in the nation's history reaches its climax as Julius Rosenberg and Morton Sobel, convicted of revealing atomic secrets to the Russians, enter the federal building in New York to hear their doom.
5.
It is time for everyone to meet an ICBM.
4.
Always remember, the flash of an atomic bomb can come at any time, no matter where you may be.
3.
At Cape Canaveral, the 51st launching of an Atlas intercontinental missile, originally scheduled for the eve of the ill-fated summit conference, but delayed for technical reasons. The Atlas fares better than the conference. It's a perfect launching.
2.
Warhead, thermonuclear in the megaton range. Mission to strike back.
1. Missile release. 0.
Human history is tumultuous. Every single era can be summed up as chaotic. We are a tribalistic and warring species after all, but perhaps no single point in time was as devastating and as widespread in its man-made madness as the 20th century. It's within this hodgepodge of craziness that Polo Stand takes place, and it is all the better for it. It is historical fiction done right, a book that blends reality with the machinations of the author so well that at times you'll lose track of what's real and what's not. So much so that it got me to actively research topics that popped up. Consider pyrotherapy. Since ancient times, it was known within certain schools of thought that fever could be used to treat various forms of disease. And in the 1900s, this idea was expanded upon thanks to the questionable antics of a psychiatrist named Julius Wagner Jauregg. Without the consent of his patients, he began experimenting with malaria by taking the blood of those infected with the disease and transferring it into others battling syphilis. Thanks to the resulting fever, a handful of them showed improvement, and this eventually led to it becoming a fairly widespread method of treatment. Because syphilis at its worst greatly affects the brain, specifically neurosyphilis, and because pyrotherapy showed psychiatric results, therapists began using it to treat other mental health ailments, notably schizophrenia. This was especially prevalent within the Soviet Union, which is where one of my favorite scenes of Polo Stand comes into play. Without delving into major spoiler territory, a character is sent to a Soviet-run mental health ward where she is made witness to a man forcibly undergoing pyrotherapy. It's a truly haunting moment as he is held down and rolled up into a thick and soaking wet canvas which is sewn tightly shut around him. He's given an unnamed drug that'll induce a fever where, in combination with the thick canvas, a canvas mind you that will shrink as it dries, he will get so hot that his brain undergoes a transformation. While discussing the events that just transpired, the character who witnessed the ordeal asks if the man was schizophrenic, and the Soviet doctor threateningly replies, he has been diagnosed as such. The implication being more than clear. Answer our questions honestly and do as we say, and you can avoid the same fate. Upon further research, I can't find examples of pyrotherapy being used in such a torturous manner, but it is hardly outside the realm of possibility, and it's these reality-blurring moments where the book absolutely shines, which works doubly in its favor as the story is about the making of a spy, and few things blur the line of reality more than a person tasked with twisting it to suit their needs. Over the years, I haven't exactly hidden the fact that Neil Stephenson is one of my favorite living authors. As an avid reader of nonfiction books, I deeply appreciate how thorough he is with his research when crafting a fictional tale. There's a sound logic to how he frames his worlds, and even though his stories are entities of his own creation, you'd be hard-pressed not to learn something while reading them. He once got so deep into the weeds that his book Anathem includes an entire appendix dedicated to laying out mathematical equations. It's pretty hardcore. He does have a few weak novels here and there, and his endings can be a bit iffy, but for the most part, his historical epics and hard sci-fi novels strongly resonate with me, and Polo Stan is peak Stevenson, albeit in a more approachable form. There's no overly complex science or math to keep more casual readers away, but that doesn't dampen it one bit, as after a string of weaker novels, this is a great reminder of why I fell in love with the author in the first place, a feat aided by what is one of his best and most intriguing characters to date. The protagonist is Aurora, but also sometimes Dawn, a woman whose dad is a communist revolutionary from Ukraine and whose mom is from Montana. Due to a particular series of events, she has dual legal identities, and this becomes of interest to the OGPU, aka the Soviet Secret Police. These dual identities are also a central part of who Aurora is. Part of the book takes place in the Soviet Union, and the other takes place in Depression-era America. And it is this straddling of two societal polar opposites that not just provides a ton of momentum to the events that unfold, but they also give birth to her own inner conflicts. In many ways, she's a walking juxtaposition, perhaps no different than the countries she stems from. Within a financially crippled America, gangsters are running amok. Bonnie and Clyde are front page news, as are the antics of Dillinger and Machine Gun Kelly, not that one. Movies reflect the popularity of gangsterdom, notably 1932's Scarface. Meanwhile, Alcatraz is being refitted to house prisoners, and across the same bay, the Golden Gate Bridge is being constructed. Throughout Washington, D.C., the Red Scare is coming into effect, and crackdowns are imminent. It is a time of changing politics, grand projects, world-changing scientific advancements, and the start of America truly becoming the globe's capitalist behemoth. All of these aspects play a role into shaping Aurora. Hell, her infatuation with gangsters is so strong that she carries a disassembled Tommy gun within a violin case. But just as her American experiences with anarchists, polo-addicted aristocrats, high-ranking military men, and train-hopping hobos help define who she is, so too does her life in the Soviet Union. Born as Dawn in the United States in 1916, she soon after landed in Russia with her mom and pops. Here she was called Zarya, which means daybreak, but this was quickly switched to Aurora, a reference to the famous ship that helped kick off the October Revolution. For those not in the know, this is when Lenin basically came into power. Her family soon ended up in Petrograd, where they lived in a communal home called a communalka. According to those residing with her, single-family homes are bourgeois. In fact, nearly everything is considered bourgeois. It's a highly weaponized term used by the commies to guilt one another or to question their loyalty. Obviously, this is a somewhat hostile environment, and due to circumstances I won't explain here, Aurora's American mother struggles with the lifestyle and separates from her father, leaving Aurora to be completely raised under the guidance of communist revolutionaries during the height of the Russian Civil War, a group which includes a machine gunner from the Red Women's Death Battalion. This woman would play a big role in Aurora's youth, as would her encounters with death. The war between the Reds and the Whites is hot, and the formation of the Soviet Union is not without chaos. Aurora sees former classmates turned into secret police, and beloved figures get hauled away and killed. Paranoia is at every corner, and thinking the wrong thoughts, or being accused of thinking the wrong thoughts, can have serious consequences. To say any more would be to delve into spoiler territory, but it's a fascinating setup, more so as it's fairly grounded and held into place by strong research and historical accuracy. Although what the book nails down better than even that is its dialogue. Polo Stand contains excellent dialogue. Each chapter of the book jumps back and forth between time periods and countries, spanning a good number of years, but what could best be defined as the present time parts of the book occur during 1934 in Magnitogorsk, and in one of these moments, Aurora is being interrogated by the OGPU. It's these moments that steal the show. The interactions between parties is exceptionally well written. Stevenson has always been a good author, but he goes above and beyond here. The transformation of a young woman into a Soviet spy is compelling as fuck, and at its core, this is what the novel is about. It's about the major events of her life that led her towards being a strong recruit for the Soviet cause, whether it's what she wants or not. Dun 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 dun. This video opened with a montage of Cold War era footage in a post-nuclear bomb world. And while the story takes place in the 1920s and 30s, it's very much about the events that got us to that point. Consider it a prequel to the Cold War. As this is only the first entry in a new series, I can't say for certain where the bomb light cycle will ultimately end up. This book is straightforward enough, but Neal Stephenson definitely isn't afraid to get weird. Aurora is named after a ship that created a revolution after all, so she seems destined to create change. Might she alter history as we know it, deviating us from the known path of the nuclear arms race? My mind goes towards Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You think you know where the movie will end up, but then he changes history in the final act, and suddenly it's a happy ending from the one you expected. Just where Polo Stan is concerned, I think a happy ending with nukes is unobtainable, and I sort of expect the author to take us down a darker path, but only time will tell. Regardless though, whether the series stays true to history or veers from it, I don't think you can go wrong reading it. It's a great piece of historical fiction, and just like Babe Ruth during the same years this book takes place, Neal Stephenson hit a home run. Thanks for watching.
Deedle-dum-dum, deedle-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you